The winner of the game's in control. The loser of the game's at the mercy of others.
Catch him if you can, Sammy Watkins.
Make no mistake about anything in ball. They have very good players.
Beyond Warner, his sixth sack already this year.
This is a complete football team that's getting ready to play.
Prime time, that's what you want to be a part of. That's what you want to play in.
So maybe you've heard, there's a decent game in Tallahassee tonight. It's the biggest game in the country. Bobby Bowden even talking about who has the edge.
The whole key to me in Florida State, can they disrupt that quarterback? Because when he's not disrupted, you can't hardly stop him.
Don't snooze on a crucial coastal clash. Georgia Tech's offense is rolling. If there's one team that seems to know how to take the sting out of the Yellow Jackets' option attack, though, it's the Canes.
Touchdown!
Is this the day an ACC team steps up and makes a statement to the country? The Terps have a top 10 test. And who else? The Wahoos. They hook up with the Horned Frogs. This is ACC Kickoff Live.
Over to the 10, at the 5. Touchdown!
It's a great day for football, great day for ACC football, in fact. He's Dorsey Levens. I'm Jeff Fischel. Where's Riley Skinner? We'll hear from him later in the show. We'll also hear from Kelly Nash and Tommy Bowden, yes, and Bobby Bowden. It's like the old Bowden Bowl days. They both weigh in on the game they used to enjoy so much and dread too. We hear about that. All right, Dorsey, so much buzz all week about Florida State and Clemson. You got to be fired up.
I am fired up. It's game day. It's Saturday. This is what we've been waiting for. Very big game. Number 10, number 4, probably right now the best two teams in the ACC. Let's get it started.
Yep, no doubt. It is one of the big games today. Time now for the Atlantic Division Saturday menu. That's the headliner, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Dorsey, Maryland visits number 8 West Virginia.
Can Maryland go on the road and get some respect against a very talented number 8 West Virginia football team? Last week, the ACC 0-3 against the Big East. Can we gain some respect nationally today against these good teams?
Geno Smith is tough. Army invades Wake Forest.
Can Wake Forest bounce back from a disappointing blowout last week in Tallahassee, 52-0? See if they have any resilience this week.
A possible trap game for North Carolina State. The Wolfpack opens up conference play next week, so they could be looking ahead. They better not. The Citadel is a top 20 FCS team. And then, of course, you know it, the big one is tonight. Clemson at Florida State. Both teams know the stakes in this one. They're both coming to play. The crowd's going to be fired up. A possible division title, a possible conference title, and if they keep winning, a possible shot at a national title for the winner.
Y'all get to have the circus of national media and all that good stuff, and be very interesting to see how we handle that, how mature we are to handle those situations from a year ago. And as those big games come up and see how we do things, I think we'll do very well. I think we'll handle that. I think we learned some lessons.
Being from Virginia, like I've said before, we would watch the Florida States and the Miamis, and these were the type of games that they had. You know, the 8 o'clock games, you know, prime time, Kirk Herbstreit, all those guys, Lee Corso there at the game. So that's what you want to be a part of. That's what you want to play in.
Our next goal is to win the division. That's what we're trying to do. Is it a big game for the division? You better believe it. Because the winner of the game is here's the deal. The winner of the game's in control. The loser of the game's at the mercy of others.
At any time, like I said, when they can run the football, they have outstanding linemen and a great back. The receivers can make big plays. They can throw the ball down the field. The quarterback can scramble and run. It's deceiving. It's well coached. I mean, you know, I could go on and on, but it's the balance and then the big play capabilities that come off of it.
When you're playing a team that's played 3 games and they've given up 3 points, they're giving up 1 point a game. Points are at a premium. We're going to have to score more than 3 to win. There's no doubt.
Now, I do think Clemson will get more than 3 points tonight, but it is very tough, no doubt, against that Florida State defense right now ranked number 1 in the country in so many categories. Of course, they haven't taken on Taj Boyd, Andre Ellington, DeAndre Hopkins, Sammy Watkins. What's the key when you're watching the Clemson offense take on the Florida State defense?
There's so many keys because Clemson has so many weapons on offense. I mean, let's start with Andre Ellington, the running back. He's leading the ACC in rushing right now. And Taj Boyd, the quarterback here, he's the catalyst to get all this stuff going. As he goes, the team goes. He's going to have to avoid some guys from Florida State coming after him today. So let's talk about the wide receivers as well. Sammy Watkins, Nuke Hopkins, 2 great receivers. Hopkins is leading the ACC in receptions. Sammy Watkins, we know what he's capable of. He came back last week against Furman, didn't seem to miss a beat. But I think the onus is going to fall on the offensive line. How can you stop that Florida defense and keep them off your quarterback? And Taj Boyd, how can he be effective under all that pressure? Can he escape the pocket and make some plays? We're going to find out tonight.
So the question, of course, with Taj Boyd, looking at all of that, can Clemson, looking at that defense, be able to handle what Florida State's throwing at them? Are there holes that they can exploit in that Florida State defense?
I don't see any holes. You know, if you look up front, they put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Warner is leading the FBS in sacks with 6.5. Tank Carradine is second to ACC in sacks with 3.5. I think there's any pressure is going to be on cornerback Xavier Rhodes back there because he's got his hands full with Watkins and Hopkins back there. He's going to have to step to the plate and make some plays.
We're not done talking about this team, this game. Our ACC Blitz tag team partners, Dave Baker and Tommy Bowden, have been poring over game film too. We asked them to give us their take on the keys to tonight's game.
Thanks, Jeff. Certainly doesn't get any bigger than Clemson and Florida State. I'm here with Coach Tommy Bowden. This is a game that used to be known as the Bowden Bowl. What's it like being a part of such a big game like this?
In a game like this, Dave, there is a lot of emotion. You hear that a lot about football. It's a game of energy. It's a game of emotion. It's a game of electricity. But again, don't be surprised if there's false starts in this game because of all the anxiety of these players all week. And there's a lot of exchanging of pleasantries. Let's just say that between the two teams.
Do you have to manage emotions? There are some games when you got to get a team really up to play. This is a game, I would think, where you've got to try to ratchet those back.
Well, you know, and one of the good things in a game like this is you have the players' attention all week. There's no doubt about that. They will practice well and be very attentive. But again, the false starts, late hits, things like that, that's where you have to be careful.
Why is it such a big game? Where you look at the national rankings, 10-4, only the 9th time that the ACC has had a top 10 matchup, only the second top 10 matchup in all of college football this season. Clemson ahead a little bit in terms of the ACC championships. Of course, they have a longer history in the league, and you see the national championships as well. Tommy, so many people talk about the big play guys in this game, but, you know, as we've been talking throughout the week, it's probably going to come down to the running game.
Well, really, you know, I had a chance to talk to both head coaches, and I asked Jimbo, who would you have rather stop, Boyd, Watkins, or Ellington? And he said Ellington. I talked to Dabo Sweeney. I said, hey, what is the importance of you this week? And he said, hey, we cannot become one-dimensional. We must run the football. Therefore, Andre Ellington is going to be the attention of focus. And it's one of the things I liked about him when I recruited him out of high school is he had some toughness. He did not mind running in between the tackles. And again, here he had great hands, he had great speed. So I think you'll see a lot of attention on Andre today.
So much attention on the Florida State defense, and deservedly so, leading up to this game, Tommy. They have performed. They're in the top 5 in most national defensive categories. This is definitely going to be their toughest test, though.
Well, really, but you know, they played an easier schedule. But again, if you're going to play an easy schedule like that, then your statistics better dominate, and they dominate. So they've taken inferior talent, and they've mastered them.
Boy, it's been a long enough week already, and now they have to wait till tonight to kick it off. Should be a great one in Tallahassee. Jeff, that's a story from here in our ACC Network studios. Back to you.
All right, guys, thanks. You can always get more from them on the ACC Blitz. Seeing as how this is the biggest game in college football today, you know, a lot of people will be talking about it and tweeting about it, including former Clemson, Florida State stars. Let's bring in K-Nash Sports' Kelly Nash. What are they saying about the big game?
Hey guys, yeah, there's nothing quite like Twitter on game day and nothing quite like tweets from former players. Love the passion. We got to start with James Davis. He tweeted, Clemson, once again, we are the underdogs. FSU has not played anybody this year. It's time to hit them in the mouth. Now let's switch over to the Seminoles side. Someone who knows a little bit about nasty hits, Myron Rolle, former safety over there. He's going to be front and center tonight. He tweeted, excited to be honorary captain for the game Saturday. Let's go Noles. Well deserved, Myron. And now a Southern-style picnic up for grabs between two governors who placed bets on this game. Florida's Rick Scott had this tweet, I have a friendly wager on the FSU Clemson game with Nikki Haley. Of course, she's the South Carolina governor. Florida key lime pie versus South Carolina barbecue. Of course, he's going for the barbecue. I'm going for some key lime pie.
Why choose? Invite me to either, both. I'll eat it all. Dorsey, what's it like when teammates, coaches, fans, governors are fired up for a big game?
It's exciting for everybody involved, you know, especially the players. I know as a player, the night before a real big game, real anxious, really hard to sleep the night before. Just looking forward to getting on the field and seeing what's going to happen. You know, this game in particular, there are national championship implications involved. So whoever wins this game, like Dabo Swinney said in his press conference, has one leg up on the other rest of the guys in the conference, so it's big.
It'll be interesting to see how emotions play a role tonight in the game because, of course, that can be a big factor. All right, we know it. Johnny Cash, Rick Ross have both given a nod to Tallahassee and Florida State in songs. Doesn't get any better than the scene there tonight.
We heard from Tommy Bowden a couple of minutes ago. For years, he battled his dad when Clemson faced Florida State. Bobby remembers the big games and what it was like having a house divided.
And it's one of those things we got where we didn't enjoy. Why? Because one of us had to lose.
Georgia Tech has the triple option, but Miami has the freshman sensation, Duke Johnson. The Ramblin' Wreck must find a way to keep him from racking up yards and touchdowns. The Hokies were gobbled up and spit out last week by Pitt, but there are still high expectations. Frank Beamer looks for answers in Blacksburg.
Jim Grove and the Demon Deacons arriving at Grove Stadium. Wake got mauled last week by Florida State, but a win today over Army would take Wake to 3-1. Kickoff for this one at 12:30 coming up on the ACC Network. All right, let's order the right side of the Saturday menu brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. It's the Coastal Division, Dorsey, Bowling Green, and Virginia Tech.
Can Virginia Tech get that offense on track? Can Logan Thomas get on track? Can the offensive line find some time to mesh and secure the running game?
The Cavs also face a tough non-conference road test at TCU. The big challenge, how do the Who's stop quarterback Casey Pahal? This is going to be a fun one to watch in Texas. All right, Dorsey, in-state rivalry, East Carolina at North Carolina.
Bryn Renner had a monster game last week. 5 touchdowns, career high, 363 yards rushing. That offense really seemed to take shape in the second half. Let's see if they can keep that momentum up.
Duke looking to go to 3-1.
Quarterback Sean Renfrey threw for 3 touchdowns last week as well. They had a punt return and an interception for a touchdown. They're finding ways to score. If they win this, they're only 3 games away from that elusive bowl game.
Oh, yeah. And a key conference matchup, Miami at Georgia Tech. The Canes fixed some flaws on defense last week, but that was Bethune-Cookman. The Yellow Jackets have more yards on the ground than any other school in the country. This is one probably that confuses a few people. If there's one ACC defense that has really struggled so far, it's Miami's. But the Canes have beaten the Yellow Jackets the last 3 years. Total scoring combined 92-34, including 24-7 last year. So, Dorsey, do the Canes have some secret formula they're not sharing with anyone else about how to stop that triple option?
I think the formula they had the last few years, they're just faster, bigger, stronger, more athletic than Georgia Tech. You know, they didn't have more than 7 days to prepare, and they still shut down that offense. It's going to be curious to see how they do today because right now they're struggling against the run. They're 11th in the ACC against the run. They're not the same defense they were last year. So.
Right.
something's got to give today.
A lot of those guys are gone, replaced by a lot of very young players, and they're learning the hard way, giving up a lot of yards on the ground. A big role these last few years has been turnovers. The Canes need to force them. Al Golden would be very happy winning the turnover battle. He'd also be happy to see Duke Johnson go again and have another big day. 4 touchdowns last week. I think we're all amazed by what he's done so far.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's having a Sammy Watkins-esque freshman season where he's just all over the place. He's second in the FBS right now in all-purpose yards, and not just for freshmen, for all players in the FBS.
Incredible.
Just a very explosive player. Like we talked about before, he scored 3 different ways on special teams. As a runner and as a receiver out of the backfield. This kid can do it all. Very dynamic player. Be curious to see what he does today against my Yellow Jackets.
He'll be putting, no doubt, a lot of pressure on that Yellow Jackets defense, which has actually looked very good. Algro's defense, attacking, physical, experienced. We'll see what game plan he has for arguably the best true freshman in the country. Well, Duke Johnson, he isn't just a guy who makes big plays. He also wants to be a part of rebuilding Miami's reputation and making the Canes a powerhouse again. Kelly Nash, what are Johnson and some of his teammates doing to lead the way?
That's right. They're adopting a new philosophy called Brick by Brick. A new building on campus is going up. It's going to house the Canes' new practice facilities, their new locker rooms, their new study halls, all of that. And Al Golden saw this going up day by day. So did the whole team. And he came up with the concept brick by brick, sat them down right before the Boston College game, said, listen, guys, if we start doing things the right way, little by little, brick by brick, we can become as strong as that building that you see right over there. Now, some Canes taking this a little bit further, incorporating that brick by brick and their jersey number as their new Twitter handles. So guys, this team is 2-1, 1-0 in the ACC. They're obviously buying into Al Golden's new philosophy.
It certainly looks like it. Dorsey, what do you think? Are the Canes headed in the right direction?
I think they are. You know, I like what Al Golden did when he was at Temple. He turned that program around. But it's a young football team, and I think brick by brick, building that foundation slowly up from the ground is a great philosophy. But Georgia Tech's bringing that wrecking ball today, so we don't even worry about that.
I have a feeling I know which way Dorsey's going that one. We'll talk about predictions later in the show. All right, we know a team that took a big step backward last week. Virginia Tech lost to a Pitt team that came in 0-2. Today, the Hokies are home against Bowden Green. Dorsey, you're Frank Beamer. What do you do to fix what happened last week?
I think you got to start with the offensive line, you know, to get the run game going. This is not the same team it was last year where they could put David Wilson in the backfield and run the football up and down the field. Logan Thomas had so many weapons around him last year, I think it took a lot of pressure off him. But now, because he has a lack of experience at receiver on the outside, he hasn't found anyone outside of Marcus Davis as a go-to player. He lost DJ Cole to an injury early in the season. Something's got to improve on that offensive line for the whole collective group to function.
And we see here what Pitt did to them last week offensively. Pitt over 500 yards total offense. That Virginia Tech defense really struggled. Some good news, Kyle Fuller will probably be able to play today. Also, Tariq Edwards should finally play for the first time. It looks like maybe at least the Hokies, supposed to have a great defense, maybe Bud Foster at least has all the pieces in place finally today as Virginia Tech goes against Bowling Green. Well, do you like seeing teams play tough non-conference games? 2 big road tests today. Maryland, with one of the best defenses in the country, tries to slow down a Heisman Trophy favorite. And for Virginia, no time to pout about that loss to Georgia Tech. The Cavs have a top 25 test in the Lone Star State. Hey, for more on this fourth weekend of Atlantic Coast Conference football, tune into the ACC Blitz powered by Ram. Dave Baker's in for Tom Wormy. He's with Coach Tommy Bowden. They've got more on tonight's Clemson-Florida State showdown, and they take a look back at the great plays from week 3. So tune in at noon to the ACC Blitz powered by Ram. Check local listings for the station in your area. Maryland and West Virginia have played 48 times. Last year, it was a great game. The Mountaineers quarterback, Geno Smith, had a record-setting day. The Terps' Danny O'Brien tried to lead a game-winning drive in the final minutes, but he was picked off at the 13-yard line. West Virginia held on 37-31. Maryland has one of the top 10 defenses in the country. What does West Virginia have? Oh, Geno Smith, arguably the best Heisman Trophy right now candidate in the country. He's been fantastic. Dorsey, how did the Terps stop him?
It's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard because he's such a dynamic, such an athletic player, and he does so much. But like you said, Maryland's defense is ranked 6th in the country. So they have the pieces in place to stop him. But it's going to be tough. I mean, this guy's having a great year. Like you said, he's my candidate for Heisman right now if I had a vote today. But last week, 441 yards passing the ball, 5 touchdowns. He's completed 88% of his passes this season, 9 touchdowns to only 9 incomplete passes the entire season.
Those are video game numbers. That's
0
crazy.
sacks, 0 negative yardage plays. He doesn't go backwards. He just goes forward. Like I said, Maryland, they got their hands full, and he's got some weapons around him. Stedman Bailey, Tavon Austin, the wide receivers, and their running back, Sean Austin, is averaging over 7 yards a carry. A lot like Clemson, if you look at this team offensively. So they're going to be tough to stop.
All right, we know that Maryland has cut out for them today. The bottom line, do they have a shot to stop the Mountaineers and beat them?
They have a shot because their defense is playing well. The thing that worries me is Perry Hills in that offense because he's young. He had a tough game last week, only 100 and some change yards passing the ball. The offense is going to have to step up for these guys to win because West Virginia is going to put some points on the board.
One good news for that Randy Edsall offense, Stephon Diggs, another great freshman, starting to step up his game. He's averaging 147 yards and all-purpose yards each game. That's second in the ACC. While certain conferences will remain nameless, avoid playing any tough non-conference games, especially on the road. ACC has 2, not only that West Virginia-Maryland game, but Virginia taking on TCU, kickoff at noon. All right, Virginia struggled last week against Georgia Tech on the ground. What's that defense got to do to fix it and play much better against a very tough offense?
They got to get some confidence back because what Georgia Tech did to them last week was demoralizing because they ran the ball up and down the football field, scored 56 points. Virginia's worst day on defense since 1999. Something's got to give. I think they just have to come together collectively as a group and play football, play hard, strong football.
And it's not like Mike London's offense has been rolling right now. The last 2 weeks they got more than 300 yards of total offense in each of these games. They need to get going. So do the Cavs have a shot today?
They do. I think they have a better shot than Maryland. But like I said, it all has to come together. Michael Rocco has to play well. The run game, hopefully Perry Jones can get it going and they can get some yards running the football. But they got a decent chance. I like their chances better than Maryland's.
It would be a nice win for the Cavs, no doubt. They've lost 17 of the last 20 road games against ranked teams. All right, let's bring in K-Nash Sports. Kelly, it's just week 4, but I think we're starting to get a pretty good feel for what we're seeing in the Coastal Division. What do you think? What does it look like this year?
Yeah, we've already seen some great marquee matchups in this Coastal Division, but what we wanted to know was who do you think is going to win it all as far as the Coastal Division? We asked fans on Facebook.com/the ACC. Overwhelming response, Virginia Tech. No surprise there. Georgia Tech right behind them. But third guys, Duke. They went ahead of North Carolina, took the 3rd slot. Dorsey, what do you think of the fans' vote?
I think the fans are right on point.
Fans like Virginia Tech. It's hard to argue right now. They haven't lost a conference game. They beat Georgia Tech. Duke, the 3rd choice, which might surprise a few people. It certainly threw me off a little bit, but it's hard to argue with how they've started. So you like Virginia Tech?
I do like it. Yeah, right now.
Certainly expect the Hokies to kind of get things straightened out and get going forward. There are 5 ACC games that could tell us a lot about the Coastal today. Starts Miami, Georgia Tech. If the Yellow Jackets lose, they'll have 2 losses. Hard to see them overcoming that. They'll face Clemson in 2 weeks. It's so hard to get ready for the Yellow Jackets in just 1 week. I could see Georgia Tech pulling off the upset there. A curveball. Most important games, NC State, North Carolina. You're saying NC State's not in the division. North Carolina's not eligible for a bowl. But North Carolina, if they win that game, then they have a week off to prepare for Georgia Tech. I could definitely see the Tar Heels getting on a roll there and creating chaos in the division. Obviously, Forest State and Virginia Tech will be huge. Then the Hokies closed the season with Virginia. Last year, it was the game that decided the Coastal. It could happen again. This week, the football world lost a man who changed football and the way we watch it. Steve Sabol of NFL Films died of brain cancer. Not only did he give fans access to moments they never would have seen or heard otherwise, his work helped create a mythology where we saw the players as gladiators fighting heroic battles once a week. Dorsey, I'm sure you were in some of those NFL films. What do you think he meant to football?
I think he changed the way we looked at football. He made it more exciting. He brought you into the huddle or onto the sideline, with mic'd up. You get to hear what players are saying and what the coaches are saying. Super slow motion, which I always loved as a player. It just made everything more exciting. The way we viewed the game and sports as a whole, I think what he and his dad brought to the table from NFL Films changed the whole face of sports as a whole.
It's a good point. We see it in every sport. The tight up shots of guys' faces. We see the emotion. We get the feeling that we're hearing what's going on the field. It certainly was an impact. He had an impactful way of doing things that has changed sports, no doubt. Another football legend has been thinking about the big game, Florida State and Clemson. For Bobby Bowden, this game is personal. We talk about that, but also the X's and O's and his prediction next. The big game tonight, Clemson and Florida State. There have been some good ones. November 4th, 2000, Bowden Bowl 2. Tommy Bowden brought his number 10 Tigers into his father Bobby Bowden's den, only to be waxed by the number 4 Noles 54-7. Early this year's showdown, the schools have the same rankings. 2006, Bowden Bowl 8. It came down to the wire. James Davis runs in a 1-yard touchdown with 8 seconds left, giving Clemson the 27-20 victory. First win in Tallahassee in 17 years for Clemson. Finally, 2010 edition, Jimbo Fisher's first year as head coach, E.J. Manuel taking the place of Christian Ponder. Dustin Hopkins, a 55-yard field goal as time runs out, giving the Noles a 16-13 win over Clemson. Joining me now, the winningest coach in major college football history, Bobby Bowden. Bobby is part of the Legends Poll, a top 25 chosen by some of the great retired coaches in college football history. Okay, Bobby, we know Saturday night is big. Give fans a sense of why this game is so big.
Well, both of them are undefeated, and both of them are impressive. They hadn't been tested yet. You know what? That's going to come down the road. The way I look at this game, if Florida State wins this game, they'll probably be favored on all the way out. You know what? I'm not sure exactly of Clemson's schedule, But I think that, I've watched both teams, and the only difference I see is Florida State's defense. If Florida State's defense is as good as I think they are, and as they have looked so far, I would think that would be the difference in this game. Now things could change that. Clemson can make some big plays that Florida State can't handle and win and score more points than you would think. But I really think the big difference right now is Florida State's defense.
It's looked very good so far, giving up 3 points in 3 games. Okay, Bobby, of course there were the years when this game, Clemson versus Florida State, was the Bowden Bowl, right? You going against your son, Tommy. Take us back for a second. What were those games like for you and your family?
Well, it was fun at first, and it's one of those things we got where we didn't enjoy. Why? Because one of us had to lose. You know what? My wife would sit up there in the stands, and she'd have Tommy and our son-in-law on that side, and have me and my son Jeffrey on this side, and who's she going to pull for, And I think she ultimately pulled for Florida State. That's because I had the credit card, Tommy. She didn't use Tommy's credit card; she used mine. So I think she ultimately pulled for Florida State.
Oh, but she told Tommy she was cheering for him, right?
She probably, probably.
Did you ever say, "Hey, hon, call Tommy, get some inside info for me on Clemson"?
Oh, I had to watch her at first, man. I was afraid she'd send my playbook up there to her boy, her son,
Right.
And we beat them the first 4 or 5 games, and then they got control at the end. I was getting tired of him.
Yeah, right. All right, now the hallmark of your great Florida State teams was a great defense, dominant. Now Jimbo has one this year. Compare some of the great defenses you had to what Jimbo has this year.
Well, it looks comparable. In fact, they look more physical than a lot of our best defenses. Our best defenses could run, they could fly, and they had a lot of courage. Now his are bigger and stronger, and yet they got good speed too. And so I believe they're going to be comparable.
This Clemson offense has Taj Boyd, Andre Ellington, Sammy Watkins, DeAndre Hopkins. When a great defense takes on a great offense, which side has the advantage?
If they can get to the passer, Florida State will have the advantage. Now, if Florida State can't get to that passer, if they can't contain him and not let him do what he wants to do, now he can beat you. Because they've got the talent out there. They probably got as many good receivers as anybody in the country. I'm talking about big-time draftable receivers, Yeah. And so the whole key to me in Florida State, can they disrupt that quarterback? Because when he's not disrupted, you can't hardly stop him.
Bobby, I've seen your top 25 in your Legends poll. You have Florida State number 4 and Clemson number 10. The game is in Tallahassee. Okay, give me your prediction for the game.
Well, I think Florida State will win because of their defense. Now, let's put it like this. Let's say both teams play good as they can. I think the difference would be Florida State's defense. Still, I think it could be a high-scoring game. Now, the thing, it's going to really tell you something about Florida State. If Florida State has, we talk about, well, is this Florida State team for real? If they struggle in this game, the answer to that might be, well, not yet, But if they win thoroughly, then you're going to have to say they're going to be competing for the top, And I think you say the same thing for Clemson. If either one of them can win very strongly, they could go, well, they could win the rest of their schedules.
Bobby, thank you so much. Former Florida State coach Bobby Bowden, now a part of the Legends channel and the Legends Top 25 poll. Thanks. Enjoy the big game.
Good to talk to you, buddy.
It was nice of him to do that early in the morning, but he said he gets up at 4 a.m., so he's up before any of us young whippersnappers, that's for sure. As I said, Bowden number 1 all-time for FBS schools, 377 career wins. Joe Paterno, of course, was number 1, but the NCAA stripped him of 111 wins when Penn State was punished for the Jerry Sandusky scandal. The ACC also has the active FBS wins leader. He's at 253 and counting. Tonight in Tallahassee, it's Bobby Bowden's protege, Jimbo Fisher, against Dabo Swinney, who ironically replaced Tommy Bowden. Dorsey, which coach do you trust tonight in a big game? Who might be pulling the right strings?
I don't think there's one coach that I trust more than the other. I don't think one coach has an advantage schematically over the other. But I think today, if I had to pick a coach, it would be Jimbo Fisher. One, because he has arguably the best defense in the country. And two, they're playing in Tallahassee. I played there before. You can't even hear yourself think when you're on the football field. And crowd noise is going to be a factor, especially if Taj Boyd can't hear the count. You know, I hope Clemson worked on some silent counts this week, because I know they know once they get down there, it's going to be hard to hear snap counts.
These fans from both schools are definitely fired up. Florida State can certainly rush the quarterback, and the Noles corners can play solid man-to-man, but Taj Boyd is so unflappable. Riley Skinner. Riley looks at how he makes decisions at the line of scrimmage and how Taj Boyd will try to poke holes in that defense.
I'm Riley Skinner. Welcome into Chalk Talk. We're breaking down the X's and O's of some of the conference's best players and teams. Today, let's look at Clemson quarterback Taj Boyd and his elite ability to read defensive coverages both pre-snap and post-snap. First, we'll take a look at pre-snap. As he comes to the line of scrimmage, they've got an outside zone run called to the left, but he notices the cushion between Sammy Watkins and the cornerback. He makes no audible. All he's got to do is rise up and throw a quick hitch route to Sammy. A one-on-one with Sammy Watkins is what they want for an easy 3 to 4 yard gain. A missed tackle can result in a huge play. And here, he's got the numbers he wants on the outside with Sammy. The safety's deep. He's got a cushion, and they've got an outside zone called to the right, but he likes the numbers on the left. He gets the ball, raises up quick, throws it to his playmakers, and he's off to the races. And here, post-snap, he looks, he knows he's got a 2-deep coverage in the middle of the field open. All he's got to do is hold the backside safety with his eyes. Notice him stare him down, because he knows the corner route by the tight end is going to take the front side safety, allows Sammy to come right beneath, puts a perfect ball on the money, huge touchdown against Florida State. It's Taj Boyd's ability to intuitively read the defensive coverages that make him, in my opinion, one of the best passers in the ACC.
All right, Riley, thanks. Great breakdown there. Dorsey, what impresses you most about Taj Boyd?
I think right now his poise and his confidence as a quarterback. He's been there, done that before, and you can see it when he's out there on the field. He's going to have a big game today, though, because like we talked about earlier, that Florida State defense is for real. And Clemson's success really is riding on his shoulders, because he has to make the throws in the pocket with those guys breathing down his neck. And when no one's open down the field, he's going to have to run. Yeah. So he's going to have the ball in his hands every play. Clemson has the ball. He's the most important guy on the field for Clemson today.
He's been great so far. 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's looked very solid. Well, Wake Forest felt the full wrath of that Florida State defense last week. The Demon Deacons, they gained just 126 yards in the game. Today they face Army. It's the ACC Network game of the week. Steve Martin and Dave Archer have the call.
Well, thanks, Jeff. There's the Demon Deacon holding court and protecting things at BB&T Field, side of our ACC Network game this afternoon, a non-conference clash between Army and Wake Forest. And, Dave, when you take a look at Wake Forest offensively, they've got a great quarterback in Tanner Price. He's got to get some time to do things. And they've got a guy who probably is the guy you need to watch on every play offensively, number 3, Michael Campanaro.
All-everything guy is Michael Campanaro. They get the ball to Michael in a lot of different ways. They'll hand it to him. They'll throw it to him in the screen game. He's an outstanding run after the catch guy. Also throw the football down the field to him. Whatever way you can get Michael Campanaro the ball, that's what you want to do. He'll even throw the football. He's thrown for 2 touchdowns.
Got a lot of family on hand. They'll be here today. And, of course, the Black Knights of Army are winless on the season, but not because they haven't had the football very much. Last week they lost to Northern Illinois and ran the football for 486 yards.
Yeah, and those 3 guys right there rushed for over 400 on their own. You see 6 touchdowns among those 3 guys for the Black Knights, and they're a difficult offense to contain. It's an offense that if you're not assignment conscious, you're in trouble. First of all, you got to take care of the fullback. They'll read that defender. If he crashes, Steelman will step around. Now Steelman will option the outside defender. Now he's looking to either keep or he'll pitch the ball to the outside. If you are not assignment conscious, they'll put the ball in the end zone. Steelman, 4-year letterman, 4-year starter at quarterback, he'll beat you.
And, of course, the keys are trying to get the guys in the backfield to make sure that they're there for that one pass. Jeff, we could get this game done by 2:30.
Gentlemen, thank you again. More food in this game, in this show. I love seeing that and talking about that. Remember, guys, at home, you're watching. You can always tweet us or follow us on Twitter at the ACCDN. Wake, just one of the big games today. North Carolina State can also go to 3-1 today with a win. The Wolfpack at home against the Citadel. First meeting between these two schools since 1983. Dorsey, it looked like the offense finally started to go last week. Do you think it's one of these teams that just needed a few games to get going?
I think so. I think they were a little disappointed initially off that loss to Tennessee, because that's a big game. They're looking at that game throughout the whole offseason, and then you lose that game, I think it takes a little bit of steam out of the team. But they come back, they win the next game. Last week they won at home for the first time. I think there's no place like home. Mike Glennon was a lot more comfortable in the pocket, 257 yards, 3 touchdowns. David Amerson on defense also stepping up his game. Another interception. This guy's just a ball hawk. He's got 15 career interceptions, his second this year.
If, in fact, this is just one of those teams that needed a few weeks to click, it's good timing. Next week they enter ACC play, taking on Miami. 2 players in college, the touchdown trifecta this year. You know, a rushing TD, receiving, and a return in the same game. First it was Gio Bernard. Then last week, Duke Johnson. Is Gio healthy enough to play today for UNC? Can Duke help save the Miami program? That's next.
Here in Miami, it's the Duke Johnson show. What a move! Are you kidding me? Duke-O-Mania continues! He is amazing. We are watching somebody who could be a legend at Miami when it's all said and done.
It's not just that Duke Johnson has scored 6 touchdowns, it's how he's doing it. Touchdown runs of 54 and 56 yards, a 50-yard catch, a 95-yard touchdown return on a kickoff. Dorsey, what's Georgia Tech go into today's game thinking about how to stop an explosive guy like this?
I think the biggest thing is awareness. You have to know where he is at all times because he can hurt you in a multitude of different ways. Just knowing where he is and getting a lot of guys to the ball when he has the ball, because we've seen him, he's fast, he can break tackles, he's explosive, he's kind of shifty. You just got to have people around him. You got to have bodies around him and keep him in an enclosed space so he can't break out, because he will break your ankles and take one to the house if you're not on your T's and Q's.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, last year's best freshman running back, Gio Bernard from North Carolina, after game 1, we haven't seen him. We keep waiting to find out when he's healthy from that knee injury. North Carolina taking on East Carolina. The Tar Heels okay without him, or they really need him back today?
Well, he's a dynamic player. Let's not get that twisted. Coming back into this season, he was probably the most heralded running back coming back into the ACC. But some guys have stepped up in his absence. A.J. Blue and Romar Morris are both averaging over 5 yards a carry. Romar Morris had a great day receiving last week with 5 receptions, 149 yards. So they definitely miss him, but there's some guys stepping in, doing a pretty good job in his absence.
Larry Fedora's been very quiet about the health of Gio Bernard week to week, so we'll see if he plays today. Who's the best ACC player no one talks about? It could be Duke's Connor Vernon. Tonight, the Blue Devils host Memphis. And I'll tell you what, Dorsey, his name is all over the record books.
It really is. He's doing an outstanding job. I mean, when you look at what he's done in the ACC, he's second all-time for career receptions, only 14 away from breaking the record, first all-time in Duke history. Great hands, great route runner, very consistent, very dependable player.
And Duke going for their 3rd win of the season, of course. The big question all season long, can the Blue Devils get to 6 wins? They have not been to a bowl game since 1995. Duke has moved up 2 spots in the latest ACC Power Poll. Florida State and Clemson, of course, 1 and 2. Georgia Tech moves up 1. Virginia Tech down 1 after the loss to Pitt. Dorsey, Riley, Kelly, and I all have votes, so blame us. Even tweet us at the ACCDN if you don't like the rankings. We vote every week. Check it out, theacc.com/powerpoll. You know, Clemson and Florida State is such a big game. Fans will be fired up. I'm expecting some trash talk tonight at Doak. We get an early taste of it. It's all in fun next.
Thompson. He can outrun the defender. Cuts it inside to the 10. 5. Touchdown FSU. Chris Thompson takes it 74 yards. He's already rushed for over 100 yards here in the first half. And he's loose again. 20, 15, 10, 9. Touchdown FSU.
Chris Thompson, 197 yards last week in the win over Wake. Proof that Florida State's running game is fixed. Clemson, of course, still trying to prove its defensive problems from last year are fixed. All right, Dorsey, what kind of success will the Noles have against the Clemson defense?
I really think they're going to have some success running the football. Florida State is 11th nationally running the football, and Clemson's still struggling a little bit stopping the run. They're giving up 180 yards a game. Now, that may not be a true indication because some of those games were blowouts and the starters didn't play all the way through. But look at this EA Sports video right here. Florida State's read option. You see the offensive lineman going to the second level, blocking the linebackers, giving the running back room to run. And if you looked on the outside as well, the wide receivers were doing a great job blocking downfield. Here is just a little simple play action fake. Both teams do it, a little misdirection, fake read option to the left, come back, toss the ball to your running back on the right. And if you look, the offensive line zone blocks to the left, which will create some confusion for the defense, hopefully, and they go that way and leave the running back on the right side of the field wide open. But both teams do a lot of misdirection, a lot of things that try to confuse the defense. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
All right, thanks to EA Sports again for that. We love showing that off every week, no doubt about it. How do you think Chief Osceola would react to this? Last week after a Clemson touchdown, the Tiger mascot did push-ups, and look who it was. The mascot was Clemson President James Barker. I'm impressed, my man. 27 push-ups. Those were solid. Well done, sir. Respect across campus after that. Although he has now been seen in a tiger costume. So. All right, last 5 seasons, this game. It's been all about the home cooking. The home team has won 5 in a row. Remember, last year, E.J. Manuel was hurt and didn't play. It's been a very even rivalry from 2K through today. In the 12 meetings starting in 2000, they've each won 6 times.
Let's use a Google Hangout to break down the big game. I want to bring in, it's like a boxing match. In this corner, Robbie Tinsley, the sports editor for Clemson school newspaper, The Tiger. And in this corner, Brendan Burrs, sports editor for Florida State's paper, FSU. All right, guys. Robbie, you're on the road for this game, right? You first. What's the better game environment, Death Valley or Doak?
No question. It's Death Valley. I've been down to Doak one time in 2004, and it's not the same. Nothing's the same to Clemson. I mean, I love going to road games. I love experiencing the new environments, but there's nothing like the Valley.
Brendan, Doak's going to be fired up, right, Saturday night?
Oh, I mean, definitely. There's nothing like Doak, a primetime game, especially with a sellout crowd that we have coming for the Clemson FSU game on Saturday. There's just nothing quite like it in college football.
All right, guys, back to the future. I'm 18 again. Feels good, by the way. I'm thinking about where I should go to college. Brendan, why should I pick Florida State?
Well, first of all, prettier girls. Second of all, you got the liberal college. It's just a great time, and I don't think I need to make any other argument.
Prettier girls, I think, is at best at the toss-up. If it's not, it goes to us, man. Come on.
Oh, no, sir. No, sir.
I love that the biggest argument we're going to have is about the ladies.
Oh, well, I mean,
we
want to go into the academic standings on if you want to, we could go down that route.
Okay, guys, this is a 2-part question, so you really need to pay attention. Dabo or Jimbo? Who has the cooler name? Who's the better coach? Go ahead, Brandon.
I would have to say Jimbo. I mean, I have to defend my coach, but you know, Jimbo can be a little dorky from time to time. He loves to talk in sports analogies for, you know, pretty much everything. But at the end of the day, I think he's got his heart's in the right place, and you know, he's the better coach.
What do you think, Robbie?
The same. I'll go with Dabo's name over Jimbo purely because he's my coach, and it's pretty much a toss-up in that regard. As far as a better coach, you just gotta look. You gotta look at results. What's Jimbo done since he got to Florida State? And Dabo's got 2 division titles over Florida State, and he's got the ACC title. So I don't think you can argue that Dabo's done a better job than Jimbo.
But don't you feel part of that may have been cleaning up a little bit from the end of the Bobby Bowden year? Yes, Jimbo was kind of in that coach and waiting position, but at the same time, right now this year is when you're starting to see, the fruits of Jimbo's labors over the past, 2-3 years with his top recruiting classes that he's brought in.
They didn't have top recruiting class out there. They didn't have top recruiting classes towards the end of Bowden's years.
They weren't getting the type of recruits that they are now. I don't think that's anywhere in question.
All right, guys, I love where this is going. It's leading up to the game. Who wins? Robbie, who wins Saturday night and why?
All week I thought I was going to pick Florida State, and it got closer and closer. I did more and more research, and it comes down to Boyd versus Manuel, I think. And I think Boyd takes it. I think Clemson wins. I think Clemson wins late. It's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. More the road game I've ever been to. But I think Clemson takes it.
I think you're right that Boyd is a better quarterback than Manuel, but I don't think that that's the matchup that it comes down to. I think if you look at the first game Clemson had against Auburn, Auburn was in their backfield the entire game. And if you compare Auburn's defensive line to Florida State's, which is, at least top 3 in the country, I think there's no question that Taj Boyd, he's going to get rattled, he's going to get hit, he's going to be on the ground, and he's not going to be able to get it to those playmakers in Sammy Watkins and DeAndre Hopkins.
Brendan Burrs from Florida State, the sports editor there. You can read his great work, FSUnews.com. Robbie Tinsley, the sports editor at Clemson, thetigernews.com. Guys, thank you both. Enjoy Saturday night.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great hangout, guys, and we're definitely going to do more of these over the course of the season. It was fun talking about both schools leading up to tonight's game. Time now for Saturday selections. Who are these guys picking? Coming into today, Dorsey and Riley are both 3-2. The fans are the experts. They're 4-1 so far. All right, Dorsey, time to catch up, gain some ground. Miami versus Georgia Tech. Who do you have?
I got to go with Georgia Tech in that run game. Miami's defense is struggling against the run. Big day for Georgia Tech today.
Now, Riley's not here, but he did tell me his pick was going to be Georgia Tech. He says the Yellow Jackets will put up some big yards on the ground, and he expects them to win and beat Miami. And the big game, Clemson at Florida State. Dorsey, what do you think?
I'm going to go with Florida State. I think the home team's going to win again. That defense is impressive, and they run the ball very well. They actually have more offensive yards a game than Clemson, but most of it's on the ground.
Now, I'm just the messenger on this, Florida State fans. Don't hate me for this. I'm just telling you what Riley did. Riley picked Clemson. He says he just thinks Clemson, if they force 2 turnovers, I'm reading his notes right here, the offense will score enough to outlast Florida State. So he's picking the Tigers in an upset. So what are the fans picking? So far we know they know what they're talking about. Kelly, who do the fans like on Facebook?
Upset special, but it's only by 1 vote. 112 fans voted Clemson, 111 Florida State. Unbelievable, guys. Really close.
All right. Great pick by the fans. Oh, so close. We're hoping for a great game tonight. Remember, all day here, we'll have the must-see moments from all the ACC games, highlights, and Dorsey and I will break down the big moments from today's games, all here on the ACC Digital Network, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. For Kelly Nash, Riley Skinner, Dorsey Levens, and myself, thanks so much for watching. Have a great game day. We will see you all day long here on the ACC Digital Network.